And the way that we used to do that, and I've actually got this thing, this is just a big picture of this little laminated card. And in the Army, you know, sergeants do most of the training. So that's what this tool is. It was a risk assessment for training. We don't use this kind of a system for combat. That's other more sophisticated stuff. And this is, again, this is back to the 1990s. This is dated 1995. But it basically just gave you some categories that then you could look at and you could decide kind of what risk level you were in. So for example, this first category, planning. So this means, is it a fragmentary order, like let's call this a verbal incident action plan, like on a radio? Or is it a fully developed op order, like did we get an actual incident action plan done? You know, and how much time did we have to prepare that? You know, was it adequate, was it too long? Are these people OpCons? So this would be like, you're out working as a crew, as a division, and all of a sudden you get a Type 2 crew from Pennsylvania Zap. You're gonna look after these guys. They're brand new. That's like operational control. Don't really work for you. Don't, you know. Versus, are they attached to you? Meaning this is like a detail. You've got these people. You've been working with them like for a chunk of a season. Or are they organic? Meaning they're just part of your team all the time. And again, is it daytime, is it nighttime? All that increases the VUCA. You know, all those little number boxes increase this complexity. And all the way through to, you know, how tired are people, how prepared are people to do this, you know, the weather, the terrain, things like that you could understand. And in fact, we have actually, so the Helitack community about 10 years ago actually tried to do something like this. And it's not bad. It was like kind of a 1 through 10 rating. Still probably too subjective, right? So we actually then worked with a couple hotshot crews and made one of these for Wildland Fire. You know, at that crew level, not the IMT level. You know, but trying to create that same type of thing, really easy to do, super quick, doesn't take a lot of analysis. You can use it for training, you could use it for burning, you could use it for any assignment, you could use it for a wildland fire. This is a big weakness in the wildland fire risk management world right now, is that these kind of quantifiable things don't really exist. So we're working on that. Everybody's working on that. Now again, you don't want to do this when you're cutting down one individual tree, but when you're looking at the assignment as a whole at the beginning of the operational period, then this would be valuable. The reason you want this kind of subjectivity, this kind of objectivity, is because subjectivity is really bad in an environment that's completely governed by the laws of probability. So we're going to look at another environment that's like the laws of probability. A craps table, the dice table. And my high speed, I cannot tell you how much this visual aid costs, right? Fuzzy dice. So what do you try to do in craps? You roll these dice. You put some money, usually on this little line right here, put a little bit of money there, and you roll the dice. Now what do you want to have happen? What are you shooting for? 7. 7 or 11. But 7. 7's good. 7, you win. So you want a 7. That's good. I know a lot of you have been hitting the casino and you're just sandbagging. Okay. 7. So if you roll a 7, boom, boom, you win. That's good. Okay. And you got 1 out of 6 chance of rolling a 7. That sounds pretty good, right? Except that's only like a 16% chance of rolling a 7. Ooh, that doesn't sound good at all, right? So you'll see these incident management teams, right? They're talking to their agency administrator. Now we think we've got a 60% chance of success. Okay, that sounds pretty good. You're never going to hear them say, we think we've got a 40% chance of failure. Because all of a sudden, that doesn't sound good anymore, right? So that's the idea. Now, Let's say we don't roll a 7. Let's say we roll a 5. What does that mean? That's okay. You haven't lost. That's the good news. You haven't lost. All you have to do is keep rolling. And you have to roll a 5 again before you hit a 7 now. All of a sudden now, 7 is bad. Okay? But as long as you roll a 5 before you roll a 7, you'll win. That's good. We have a place for you. We're going to take your chip. Instead of being up here, we're going to move it up to this 5. And you just got to roll a 5 before you roll a 7, and life is good. Oh, okay. That's good. Well, except you've only got an 11% chance of rolling a 5. Well, how could that be? Because it's just dice and numbers and, like, what's the big deal, right? And that's where the laws of probability come in. So you have 1 in 6 chances of rolling a 7 because that's this middle number. There's 6 possible combinations of the dice that make 7. 5 and 2, 4 and 3, 6 and 1. Okay? But as you move out to the lower numbers, and you see how those are organized, the 6 and the 8 in the middle, and then the 5 and the 9, and then the 4 and the 10, that's because this is the 6 and the 8. You only have 5 combinations that make 6 or 8. Move out again to our point, 5, you only have 4 combinations of 5 and 9. On out to 12 boxcars or snake eyes. Snake eyes also bad on the first roll. Don't want those. So, all of a sudden you only got a 14% chance of a 6 or an 8, 11% chance of a 5 or a 9, 8% chance of a 4 or a 10, and you got about a little 3% chance of rolling snake eyes. So that's pretty good there. Now the problem with this is that humans can't feel any of those odds change. We don't know. It just looks like a number coming up on the dice. We have no idea. We don't know, well, if we get on a helicopter somewhere, we don't know when the odds went from 1 in a million to 1 in 100,000 to 1 in 10,000 to 1 in 1,000. We have no detectors. We have no probability severity detectors in us. And this is why we struggle with risk. The only people who have it that I've seen are moms. They remember, like, I remember being in the garage, getting ready to make something that would blow something up. And I hear this, Mark Taylor Smith, you know, you get their middle name, you know, and it's like, how the hell can she know that? She's in the house in the kitchen, I'm in the garage. But she just, he's doing something again. So, intuitively, this is a don't look right, don't feel right. That's a real thing you want to cultivate, because that's something is sending you that message that these odds are changing, and we normally don't have a good way of knowing when that's happening. Okay? So let's take an example. All right, lightning strike. In the next 12 months, is it more likely that wildland firefighter in the US of A will get hit by lightning, now hit, not killed, just hit by lightning, or be killed in the line of duty? What do you think? More likely. Lightning? How many people say lightning? More lightning, you're more likely. How many people say line of duty? Okay, the vast majority is line of duty. Okay. How about, is it more likely to get hit by a car, again, not killed, hit by a car, or killed in the line of duty?
Hit by a car.
Hit by a car? Is that what you're saying? Hit by a car? General consensus? How many people think line of duty? Couple. All right. Couple. All right? Let's see. Next chances. Winning the state lottery. No. Okay? You take your money that you were going to take over to the casino. All right? You put that in your retirement. You put that in your little Roth IRA, whatever it is you got going, because you're not going to win anything at the casino. They're not the $90 billion gaming industry isn't around so you can win anything. That's not how it works, right? Okay, dying in a plane crash. Still pretty good. Not being in a plane crash, but dying in a plane crash, that's still pretty darn good. Struck by lightning, still not bad, right? Getting hit by a car. Wildland firefighter in the U.S. dying in the line of duty. That's RFD. So that is RFD. So when you get people on your cruise, kids on your cruise, you ask them, do you have a will? Do you have a power of attorney? Do you have a health care directive? Because that is how risk professionals begin to mitigate risk to their families, okay? That's important. Now, we do have mitigations, and we want to talk about mitigations. I love this guy because this is a lookout, okay? And this is a lookout whose cell phone has died. Because he's got the compass out, and he's got the instruction sheet to the compass, and he's trying to how the hell do you know, where's the... I love this. Okay. We have mitigations, okay? And how many times have you heard LCES? So that's lookout, communications, escape routes, and safety zones, which are all big mitigations, right? LCES. But what do we turn that into? Hey, make sure you have LCES. Oh, yeah, okay, got it, right? How many times have you heard, how many times have you said it like that? Okay, so one of the things we do is like the South Canyon staff ride. So South Canyon fire, 1994, 14, firefighters killed. That's in Colorado where I'm from, and we'll go help facilitate like a staff ride of that. And one of the guys that comes to the staff ride a lot is Alex Robertson. He was a sawyer on the hotshot crew, the Prineville Hotshots that lost people, and he'll come back and he tells people that go on the staff ride what he was doing that day, right? Which what he was doing was basically his head down, his butt's up, he's swamping brush for his saw partner, and he was happy because the wind came up strong enough that all he had to do was throw the brush straight up and it got carried away. And he was like, thank God, I don't have to stand up every time. Throw this stuff. They're in this big Gamble type, fuel type, right? And so, and of course, one of these kids on the staff ride is like, Mr. Alex, I got a question. How come you didn't have LCES? And he said, well, where do you think LCES came from? So I want you to imagine how many people have died for each letter in that acronym, right? So it's not about saying it more. In fact, you should probably say it less, but you should probably find a way to mean it more as you're having these discussions, with people that are out there on wildland fires. Make it more meaningful, okay? So we have, even if we have LCES, even if we have mitigations, can we eliminate risk? No, not in an inherently high-risk environment. We cannot eliminate risk. That is impossible. The best we can do is mitigate it, right? And so at the end of the day, we go through all this stuff, we fill all these mitigations, most of them, really good. And then at the end of the day, we still have high risk in Division A. Remember Division A? We still got high risk for those three things. Snags and falling objects, road conditions, air ops. We're still in high risk for those three things. So is that risk acceptable? That's got to be the next question. That's the risk decision. Is that risk acceptable? And most people would have no idea. And there's a reason for that. So this is usually the guidance that you get from on top in a bureaucracy when it comes to risk. Stuff like this. Okay, what does that mean? I want you to action that, because that's your job on the ground, Terry. You're going to action that. You're going to make that real. That's from the top. What does that actually mean? How do you create not a good margin for safety, not a great margin for safety, the greatest margin for safety?
Well, refuse the risk.
You have to refuse the risk. You're absolutely right. That's the only way. You can't get out of the truck. Presumably, you have to be in camp, because otherwise you're not going to get paid, right? You've been so. But that's literally what that would mean. Don't get out of the truck. Don't accept any risk, which is absolutely impossible, right? And here's another statement that I saw. Yeah, okay, well, that sounds good. What does that mean? According to who? Sorry, were you going to say something? You were just stretching? There is in this incident response pocket guide, there's a turn down protocol, but there's no basis for it other than, I don't feel comfortable. Well, what does that mean? What do you need, a pillow? What kind of comfort? You know, what are we talking about? You know, what does that actually look like? How do you actually, according to who, satisfactorily? We don't have metrics for that, right? And there's another agency, a different agency. Now, would you agree with that statement? Of course, right? Action it, though. That is very well-meaning with absolutely no useful way to turn that into reality. It's very well-meaning, okay? And it's sort of like this poster. Some of you have probably seen this poster. I call it the Dr. Seuss poster. Because it's like, could you be here? Should you be here? Would you be here? Would you be here in a rig? Would you, if you were, would you dig? You know, it's like Dr. Seuss, right? And again, yes, this is a true statement. Means nothing. Because it's not actionable. As a risk professional, your job, my job, is not to tell people how much risk something isn't worth. It's our job to quantify it and tell them exactly how much risk that structure, that acre, is worth. That's the challenge. That's what we want to be able to do. So, and I'm not making fun of all these people because they mean this from the bottom of their hearts. I mean, you should see when there's a fatality, what that does to the food chain all the way up to that highest executive level. It is tearing them up. But they aren't risk professionals because they're very well-meaning. But again, it's this gap that we are dealing with. And we need to bend this bottom line up. And that's why we're here talking about this and trying to, go that next step and evolve how we manage risk.